Hello there and a warm welcome to this special series on the 30th anniversary of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. I'm your host, Judith Atim. It's a pleasure to have you join us on this special edition here on the Civic Space TV, streaming on YouTube. It is a pleasure. As you all know, on the 8th of October 2025, the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda will be celebrating its 30th anniversary. And what a journey it has been like. Of course, this is a very important document. It laid the foundation for our nation's governance, and it also enshrined the principles of governance and human rights, as well as democracy. And in this special series, we are talking to the men and the women who contributed their time and talent immensely to the making of this important document that we call our Constitution. And one of our guests on the show today is Captain Francis Babu, a seasoned politician. He was also a member of the Constituent Assembly delegates. He was a member of the Constituent Assembly in 1994, contributing to the making of this Constitution a year later. And today we'll be looking at what happened 30 years ago. What was the motivation of the Assembly then? What did they hope to achieve? And what has the 30 years of the Constitution been like, including the key amendments therein, as well as the future aspirations of constitutionalism in Uganda? Good afternoon, Captain.
Yeah, good afternoon.
It's a pleasure to have you
Thank
join
you.
us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And thank you for hosting me.
Thank you. And I know it's been quite short notice, but we do appreciate the fact that you allowed us to see you at such short notice. We don't take that for granted. So the first part of our conversation will be the Constituent Assembly and the making of the 1995 Constitution. And I'd like I'd like to have your personal reflections on this particular period, 30 years ago. What are the things that motivated you? What did you people hope to achieve back then?
Okay, first and foremost, the country Uganda was not created by the natives. It was created by our colonial masters who came here. They put a lot of little states they found here, and they tied them up in Berlin, and they created a country called Uganda. So for 70 years, they ruled this country. No constitution. It was unwritten. So in 1961, 62, 59, 61, 62, when they were going away, they created a group of people, and they came out with a constitution, the 1962 constitution. It had a lot of problems for the few years it worked. Working that constitution created all sorts of problems. In that constitution, for example, they had 3 local government systems. They had a full federal, a semi-federal, and a unitary government in one constitution. Not only that, they put there things like the lost counties, and they said we should have some sort of people to decide on whether the lost countries were here or there. That created a problem. So the Constitution had a lot of problems from 1962 to the time when the NRM came in power and decided that they should have a new Constitution. There was also a Constitution that came in between called the Republican Constitution, which replaced the 1962 Constitution. That one also had a lot of problems. So the people decided that let's sit down, get all Ugandans to come up with some sort of constitution. And so they did. The aim of that was we hoped that a constitution would be made after a thorough study, and a small committee was set up with Mr. Odoki, who went around the whole country and collected views from different people. And they came out with a draft constitution, which was the basis of making a constitution. That's how it came about. And a lot of us said, okay, let's go there and try and see if we can come up with a constitution. We did not know much about constitution, all of us. All of us, that was our first time. We went and they brought the different collection and the draft constitution, and we started working on the constitution. That's how it started. Basically, we hoped we would come out with a constitution that would satisfy Ugandans. Of course, we did. And we sat there for nearly 6 months, or nearly a year. And we came out with a constitution, the 1995 constitution, which we are now talking about. That's been around for 30 years.
And in that constitution, you believe that all the aspirations of Ugandans at that time were well captured and expressed?
I think because we realized that we did not have all the answers, we put there something called the amendment clause, where Ugandans, if they were not satisfied, would come out with the new issues in the constitution. And actually, there was a man who said it very nicely. Our founding father did not know everything about the constitution, so they put there a clause for the future generation to review the constitution. And that is what is in the constitution. You cannot include everything that can satisfy people. So you put there a clause where people can come up with new ideas when there is a nuisance they have realized.
But what would you say was some of the most significant elements in the Constitution that the Constitution sought to uphold or to strongly embed in regards to human rights and good governance and democracy and things like that?
The thing that really I would like to talk about is we had two different views about the system of government, whether we should have the multi-party system or a single no-party system. There were views on that one. So in the constitution we included both of them and said, let the Ugandans decide, not us here. We gave you the right to decide whether one of them should work. So we put them there. Now, the arguments on both sides were very, very interesting and convinced a lot of us. So we put both of them in there, and we said, let the Ugandans decide which of those systems. And not only that, the people who are in the constitution did not know everything. So we put there that I think it's chapter 12, which amends the constitution. We allowed you to even include the other things in the future when they came up. And actually, yes, there's a few things that people realized were not to their liking, and of course they used that chapter 12 to do it. Whether it was right or wrong, but the chapter does exist. And the more and more I now sit down here and realize, I still think that this country needed time to build up brick by brick systems before they agreed on which system to use. We had to build the foundation. So that's my view now, but that was not my view then.
A lot of time has, certainly with the passage of time,
I realized we should build. We should not just to copy. There's a tendency to copy systems rather than build systems.
Do you think the Constitution was to some extent something that was imported from somewhere elsewhere?
A lot of
things. It was a foreign import.
A lot of things were imported.
Which do not speak to our context.
Yeah, for example, the presidential system. Now I've got a different view about that. It's very expensive. It's for countries like ours. And it gives one man too much power. So I think I prefer the parliamentary system now, which is cheaper and it sort of reduces power and gives power to different organizations, different groups. So that's my view.
Well, so we also understand that the constitution-making process was not a smooth one entirely, because you have people with different viewpoints. I don't know if you recall some contentious issues or difficult discussions that the delegates had to debate on, and how you all managed to you know, to reach a compromise?
Yeah, there was also this fever of the past. For example, when we came to local government system, there was this argument about the federal system and decentralization. There are three systems. There is federal system, there is devolution, and then there is decentralization. The Kenyans are using devolution, where they are giving the governors a little bit more power. So devolution has got slightly more power. Federation has got even slightly bigger power, whereby the entity, you can call it a state or a county or if you like a district or a county, it doesn't matter what name you give it, that entity would have slightly more power and they would decide a lot of things for themselves, like in the United States. Now, the United States, the difference is those entities, the states, were countries that gave their power to the center. Here, the powers at the center, we have to take it down to the entity. Now, looking at that, I still feel we have not got it right. We haven't got the right solution. Should it be a devolution? Like in Britain, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and England, there's what they call a devolution. They have got slightly more power. India has the same thing. They've got states where they have a chief minister and they've got a legislative assembly with power to run that entity. Now, there's that example, and here, our decentralization has been diluted. The local government doesn't have any power at all. So I'm a little bit unhappy with that. I think we should give them slightly more power. Maybe we go for devolution and eventually federation. Yeah.
So the 1995 Constitution, the making of it and what it became, of course, followed years of instability in Uganda. It came after.
And that is the biggest problem.
Yes,
because of that, some things were put in the Constitution.
And that's what I would like us to explore. Do you think the political and social problems of the past, the 90s and beyond, in a way shaped the making of this?
You see, the British were very smart when they were ruling this country. They used something called divide and rule. They would put one group in the army, put another group in administration, put another group in the police, and therefore there was friction. They created tribal hatred, religious problems. We've had a religious war in this country, you know. And because of these divisions, tribal, religious, now party, and any other form of division, has created us a lot of problems. To an extent that a particular group would hate another group for no reason at all. So, for example, the word county, some people didn't like it because a particular area of our country had counties. So they said, no, we don't want counties. Not stopping to see what is a county. What do we get out of a county? So these are areas that brought us a little bit more problem because of misconception, in my opinion.
So let's now come back to the 30 years, 1995 to 2005, the journey of this constitution. If you look back at the last 3 decades, do you still think the spirit of the letter of the 1995 Constitution has been respected or not? If it has been eroded, in what ways has it been eroded? And also, I'd like you to reflect on some of the most significant amendments that we have seen over the last 30 years and how they've impacted the country.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for this. That Constitution created a state. It created the president, it created parliament, it created different... So the Constitution did put things in, and even the local government, it is in position. How we have used them, that's another argument. How we have bypassed them is also another argument. How some people have influenced certain things, misusing them, that's another argument. But the Constitution did create a nation, and we have a state, we have an army, we have a police. They created, the Constitution did that. What unfortunately has happened, some people have used other things to try and bypass some of the constitutional laws that we've made. And in that case, they have created problems for us. They thought they were doing something good for themselves. It created bigger problems. So when you're talking about the amendments which have been made, first and foremost, I was one of those who did not agree with an age limit. I don't agree with it. We shouldn't have put it in the first place. I agreed with the term limits. But the question was, did we put in the term limits at the right time? Because even the Americans, they did run a state and they brought it later. So should we have brought it right from the beginning, or have we waited and brought it later? Now, this is another argument. We can sit down and argue about it. That's where I was telling you, we should have built this constitutions brick by brick. Was it the right time to bring some of these things? Now, the reason why I've said that, should we have not let the Constitution move and see how people behave without those limits? And then bring in the limits after we've learned that, no, we need these limits. We should have done it, after learning that we need them because of certain reasons.
In your opinion, how much time ideally would have to pass for this learning to take place before we could get to the point of realizing or deciding that we now need term
For
limits?
example, we have now learned that having a president for so many years is not good because we have seen it. Practically, you have seen it. That having the same president, there are certain things which go wrong. Now, with this president saying, because the other day I heard him saying, this is my last time to stand. We now know that immediately after he leaves, we should have that term limit in the Constitution. In other words, we have not. There's nobody here who has not seen that mistake of having the same president for so many terms. So the question is, how do we learn? By seeing it, by feeling it, and by understanding it. We now understand. Too much power to one person is not good. 2 terms limits that power, that he has to go.
And yet there's a clause that allows for amendments that at the time of the making the Constitution,
Yes.
you people, the assembly at that time, thought you didn't understand society very well, so
Correct.
you left that clause.
Yes.
In hindsight, do you think there should have been certain restrictions or limitations instead of leaving the clause on amendment just wide
You see,
open?
had we not put that limit in, nobody would have played with the Constitution at that time. They would have waited and said, look, we want 2 terms limit because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because of good reasons. We were putting it in there without any reasons. Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes good to learn on the job, if you like. Had we not put that, nobody would have amended that Constitution. But we would have said, wait a minute, we did not put this thing in. But now, because of this, I think it's time we put it in. Now, our amendment would not have been to remove it, would have been to put it in. And we would not have had that problem. The other one of the age, that one I told you right from the beginning, it was wrong because I think even the people who put it in, they wanted to block somebody else, not to stand for elections. That impinges of human rights. Somebody's age should not be used against them. So that to me, I'm not, I'm sorry, they shouldn't have even in the first place put it in.
So do you think the clause on amendment has largely been abused?
It
and
has
not
been
used?
abused. Because, in my opinion, we, right from the beginning, we never saw that happening. So what we should have done, let's see what is going to happen. For example, I've now seen that the presidential system is not very good for us. We should have the parliamentary system like South Africa. Let them go and elect, and the people who have got the most people in parliament give us the leader. And he sits in parliament. Parliament has got power over him. That is another thing that we must also look at. And at the same time, it's cheaper. We don't have to have a president running all over the country looking for a vote. He goes for a constituency, and his party decides whether he should be the leader or not.
Well, we've seen proposed reforms that also the Honorable Minister was talking about, and those are one of the issues, to allow Parliament to actually decide who becomes the leader of this country. But looking at how the Constitution has been abused, do you not also foresee a situation where such an amendment would also be abused by people who have, say, access to state resources, access to state machinery, and so on, also using such a law to actually entrench themselves onto power?
You see, if you bring it because of forcing, anytime you want to force anything, and the atmosphere is filled with hate and people are saying all sorts of things, that kind of amendment doesn't work. We need to have a country where things are moving and we reach a point and say, no, now this has become a nuisance. We should amend the law. And the lawyers will tell you, to make the law, there must be a nuisance. You get my point? There should be a nuisance. For example, for us to amend the law, because we are seeing now having a head of government more than 2 terms, this is the right time to do it. Not because you are against the person, but because you have seen what has happened. So, even bringing amendments because it's like you are demonstrating against a particular thing, does not work. It must be brought in an atmosphere where everybody has understood why we are amending the Constitution. And that new sense. Now, the new sense of local government not working very well, we should amend the local government system. What do? Do we remain with the decentralization, or do we go to devolution level and make the entities a little bit bigger? For example, when we got independence, we had 15 if you like, semi-regional systems. In Uganda, for example, we had Mubende, Mengo, and Masaka. And those were big entities. We had then Ankole, and so on and so forth. There were 15 sub-regions. Should we make these sub-regions the local government and make them devolution and leave these small entities that cannot even stand by themselves and give reasons why you are doing it? My reasons would be the districts we have cannot even stand for themselves. The sub-regions, which are bigger, they've got enough and they can even stand on their own, and the central government gives them just extra money to do certain things. Now, that is more convincing now because we have seen how the districts are working. All of you, if I say this, will say, hey, wait a minute, I think he's right here. Because we are now convinced that the small little entities, the districts, do not work well. Can the sub-region work well? Now, can you imagine a sub-region like Masaka, the whole of Masaka, with their coffee and their whatever it is, if they sell them, can they run that area without even the central government? And if they are short, how much short are they? And they are given a subvention grant to run that area. So this is a kind of thing, this is how you explain how to amend the Constitution. So I think the Constitution should be amended when everybody understands why you're amending that Constitution. And if we did this, a lot of things would fall into place. Not to go to court, not to go here, but to do things correctly without even going to court. Because you go to court, it's as if you are accusing somebody. The other one, which everybody is talking about, which I see, can we review our parliamentary system? Do we have 554 people in a parliament? No. Let's make our constituencies a little bit bigger. And because we are about 46 million, divide those by a number. Let's say each member of parliament represents 300,000 people. Divide that in 46 million. You get about 200 people less in parliament. Make it 150. And convince people that a person who is a member of parliament can actually represent 300,000 people.
But the argument some people would front is that the population is not evenly spread out across the country. There are some areas that have bigger numbers than others. So how would you justify that?
That debate was done by the Americans, where they were saying we should do it regional and we should do it population-wise. Now, that's an argument that we can review and say, okay, we are saying 300,000 people for a constituency. We can say, wait, we said we have 15. We have 15 sub-regions, isn't it? Let each sub-region give us 10 people. So the constitution there, the constituency there, will give us 10 people. So the 10 people, if you look at them, they are 150 people. And then you put on cities and so on and so forth, you bring it to about maybe 180. And then have a parliament. We can find a solution. We can find formulas. We have a lot of smart people like you who can do it for us.
Well, thank you. So when you people were making the Constitution in 1995, one of the things that was emphasized was the separation of powers between the three arms of government, the judiciary, the legislature, and the executives. How do you assess the current state of separation of powers in these three arms of government? And also, do you believe that the balance of power has been maintained as envisioned by the Constituent Assembly back 30 years ago?
Separation of power is utopian. There's no such thing. If you look at the American system, the president of the Senate is the vice president. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
And the president has got powers to veto certain things. He also gives presidential orders and can bypass the Senate and the House of Representatives. So taken in Britain, virtually the same thing. The Prime Minister, he has got certain powers. He can do certain things. And judiciary, if you think very carefully, in Britain, the Chief Justice sits in the House of Lords. The House of Lords is part of Parliament. So when you sit down here and you listen to these things, sometimes people think it is true, it's utopian. There is certain separations of power, but there are certain areas where separation of power gets together, and they have to do certain things together for the sake of the state. So what you're talking about, separations of power, is not 100% exact. There are areas where they overlap.
But what was the thinking of the CA at that time?
We were copying again, thinking that there are certain things called separation of power, which is utopian. So we said judiciary, executive, and parliament. There should be separation of powers. But at the end of the day, there is one area where they get together. When you come, for example, to protect this country as a state, the three of governments become one. And if the state is under siege, the three arms will work together. So, also that one is utopian. We've got to learn, and this is where I keep telling people, we've got to learn that at the end of the day, the executive arm of government has a lot of power.
But Captain, sorry to cut you short. Are you saying that these three arms, because of the utopian nature of separation of powers, like you're arguing, are you saying these three arms can never function independently at any given time?
No.
And if so, then what does this mean to their own autonomy and independence?
For normal, when there's peace and things are running correctly, there is some resemblance.
When things are running correctly.
Correct.
In our case, would you say things are running correctly?
In some cases, no.
Could you give examples?
Yeah, for example, I've been getting this argument about the appointment of judges, for example. I've been getting the same problem with the appointments of other people within the system. The executive arm of government has got a hand in all of them. And that, therefore, brings about the question, what do you mean by separations of power? After the judges have been appointed and approved by Parliament, and they become judges, does it stop the argument that they were appointed by the President?
Of course not. But then...
But when they are sitting in their chambers and they are following the law, they are supposed to be clear. And we've made a law that they cannot be sacked. They have to be impeached, that kind of thing. One then sits down and says, what do you mean by separation of power? They cannot tell the judge what to do because he has to follow the certain procedure. But for example, if the judge said the president should resign today, can it be fulfilled?
But elsewhere, if the executive or the legislature or any other such responsible arm, the examples you've cited, whether it's the UK, let's say the more advanced and developed democracies, certainly these arms of government do have powers, don't they?
No, that's the picture they give, but they don't.
So what does this mean then to public trust when it comes to public trust, and also the question of abuse? Because if a lot of the argument out there many times in public discourse is that this lack of independence or the lack of separation of powers among the three arms of government makes them fall prey to abuse by people in power.
Legislation and making laws, you cannot make every law. You cannot include everything. You can make certain laws, but certain things you cannot make. For example, you cannot make behavior in operating within the laws that you've been made. Some people misbehave, if you like. Let me use that word. Technically, when you are at that level, you are supposed to give a little bit of room for the other group also to operate.
So when such people misbehave and they have so much power, who then checks them?
For example, the president, the only person who can check him is Parliament. It's called impeachment.
Which is not independent, like you just said.
And that impeachment can be very difficult, how you can impeach him. You can see what the Americans did. They tried to impeach, I think it was
Trump.
No, Trump, and then the other one who was there before. The other one whose wife was a Minister of State.
Was it Nixon?
No, this one. No. The recent one, the one who was president before Obama.
Bill Clinton.
Clinton. Clinton, they tried to impeach him. It went in Parliament, it failed.
But there was at least an attempt, a process.
Even here,
do you even think we could have, in this current state of affairs, do you think the current Parliament or any future Parliament would actually have the powers to impeach the president, whether it is this president or another president in future?
I don't think there's anybody with that guts to do it in our people. In other words, what I'm trying to say, we are not yet there. There are people who can do it, but you will be alone. Immediately you move that I'm impeaching the president. When you look behind you, there won't be anybody. Remember when we were little kids and the other pushed you, say, you go and tell the teacher, go and tell the teacher this. And they came walking behind you. When you were talking to the chief, when you looked behind, you were no longer there. That's exactly what would happen if you moved a vote of impeachment.
And that certainly comes from a place of fear.
Not only fear, not understanding.
You think it's not about fear?
No.
Of repercussions?
No. I think it's much more of our level of political maturity. We are not yet there. And we do not have the guts to do it. We don't.
I'll come to that later.
And knowing that you after doing it, you will be alone. Nobody will support you.
So let's talk about the balance of power, how it has been maintained. Where does the balance of power lie in this country? Is it in the hands of this institution? Clearly not, from your explanation. So where is it? Is it in the hands of, say, a few fortune hunters here and there? Is it in the hands of...
There's a lot of power in the president. The president has a lot of power in this country. And therefore our constitution must look very carefully at this power. We have learned, first of all, the term limit. We've learned the power, how it is used. We've also learned that time has come to divide this power between the different institutions that we have. That is what we must look at the Constitution now.
Is that possible?
Oh,
How
yeah.
feasible is
Oh,
that?
yeah,
You just said people do not have the guts. Like
No,
we
no,
haven't-
no.
Our political maturity has not evolved to that level. So then how easy do you think it's going to be to actually spread that power?
The president who comes after the president needs to be the one to start that move. First of all, if I was to become the president after this one, I would put a 2-term limit for myself. Number 2, I would now go and see that powers are well distributed and that you respect the separation of powers. That has to be done by the leader who comes. And if it started by him, that is the president, then nobody would have fear. Now everybody will say, wait a minute, this is good. We now have, and then this president, like the president of, you saw the president of Malawi saying, I've had enough, we've not done even a good job. Now we need somebody to do that. We need Uganda to say, listen, you gave me this, but I have not performed to the expectation. Now, that needs people with guts. We need a Ugandan who can say, yes, you have given me this, I have done this, but I have failed to do this.
Let somebody else take over and complete what I wouldn't do so well.
Correct. And said, I therefore think among the people who have stood as president, one of them should be able to do this. Now, when he does that, it will give those who are coming into power the focus and the locus, how it is to be done. And we need to wake up. Are these systems also working for us? We must look at all the systems. We should not just think that they are going to work. Can we make them work? And that's where this leadership comes in. Yes.
I want us now to project into the future, looking beyond October 8th, 2025, when our Constitution is 30. What do you think? Many times when we talk about the Constitution and the defense of it, I think the focus is mostly on the legislature. And we forget the role of the citizens in this case, yet they are equally an important stakeholder in the defense of the Constitution. Do you think as a society we have been vigilant enough in holding our leaders accountable to actually defend and protect the Constitution and the principles of constitutionalism?
We had a system of government before the Europeans came here. A lot of our local people still believe in that system. Your job now is to come out and give them civic education, whereby it does not start on the election day. It starts from schools. And you project it over a period of 20 years to see what would come out of it. So after 10 years, you check whether there is understanding. Now, this is a syllabus. And people have to learn, not to give little kids sweets to go and become prefects, but to teach them what it's all about.
But Captain, civic education was part of the curriculum until about 1998, when the current regime, the NRM, which you are a member, actually removed it from the curriculum. So, and then we also see the onslaught on civic engagement, or having a civic population also being expanded to universities, where universities are no longer spaces for discourse on governance issues, political issues. Is this something that you look at with regret as a senior citizen, as a seasoned
Mistakes
politician?
are made, and are made by very highly educated people, because the people in the Curriculum Development Center are not very ordinary people. It's led by a professor.
But what was the reasoning at that time to actually remove
I don't know
this?
what the reasoning was, because if the civic education which was there needed amendment to add in some more and improve on it, I would have understood. But they just removed it, and I don't know why they did remove it. In my opinion, I think they should have amended it and included a few other things if it was not good enough. And this is the problem. We need to, not to hurry on changing things, but to try and improve on what is there. Now, civic education I'm talking about is very, very important. Yeah? If you asked a lot of our people, what does a member of parliament do? They don't know. Just ask anybody. What does a member of parliament do? You will hear all sorts of stories. Basically, a member of parliament has got very few functions. The first one is to legislate.
Yeah.
The second one is to pass the budget. The third one is oversight. And the last one to be a bridge between his constituency and government, to see that the things are being done which are supposed to be done by them. That's all.
Wow.
But if you ask them, they say, comes here and we can drink and we can have a good time.
So if you look at our current political and governance situation, and you go back to the 1990s, what lessons do you think we can pick from the past and apply it in our current situation to actually address some of these governance questions and challenges that we continue to grapple with?
Actually, the 1990s and the 1960s, they just created a very big problem, and a lot of us who were in that Constituent Assembly were still drunk with the past and even hatred. There's a man who stood in that CA, I remember, we must change the name of this country and call it Nile, because Buganda is from Baganda, and Baganda should not be everywhere. So you could see that our country should now become Nile.
Nile Republic.
Nile Republic. Now, that is nonsense. What we need to do is to remove the wounds of the past and create a unity. Our biggest problem now, by the way, is also to unite this country. You know, each group thinks they are different. To unite Uganda is the biggest thing we need to do. And the British, when they brought the schools, had done it, because when I went to school, by advanced level, we had people from West Nile, from Acholi, from Lanya, from Ateso, from Ankole, and we are classmates with these guys. And when we went out, we were brothers and sisters. Now, people are coming here with hatred. They hate each other because of sectarianism, which is embedded in the past and is being pushed by some people. But you young people, I'm very happy with you. I'm beginning to hear you're marrying each other. You find Muganda is marrying a Chapadola, Langi is marrying a Westerner. I think that might bring about integration. But basically, that is unity. Now, the younger generation are seeing, you know, they are running away from this divide and rule, and they've become one. Right? And there was no reason for the past. And I think I should encourage them to continue with that attitude of because you have now gone to university with each other, you know each other. And by the way, that university has done a good job because it's brought all of you together. Makerere, for example, a lot of people have got to know each other and they've got to like each other. So they are seeing no differences. A lot of young people, I'm very, very pleased the way they are uniting the country. But a lot of our young people do not have this sectarian thing. It's not with them. It's mainly with people who are a little bit older. And I don't like it at all. I'm seeing beautiful things happening. You go to restaurants and you are seeing all sorts of different people meeting each other. At one time, I was the only one who did not have that problem because mine was a mixture of races. So it's up to you to unite this country.
So we are.
By the way, uniting is going to remove all these things you're asking. Because some of them are done because of that divide and rule. If we remove some of that rubbish, this country will be very, very good.
So as we approach the 30-year mark, what are your thoughts on the legacy of the 1995 Constitution?
We need a leader today. When this one leaves, we need a leader who is going to say, wait a minute, let's remove all this nonsense. This is what we want. First of all, I'm going to be here and show them that we have to build this country. I'll start one with showing them that I'm not going to use the power to subnavigate laws. I'm going to use the power to build the country. One, our local government has to be reviewed. Two, that parliament is too big. Three, we need a president and a prime minister. Is this system a presidential system and a parliamentary system good? Which one is better? We're a poor country. Which one is cheaper? So I'm even going to get a system because it's cheap. So our people can be able. So instead of a president looking for signatures in 90 districts, he will go to his constituency and become a member of parliament.
And lastly, what is your hope for the future of constitutionalism in Uganda?
I think we can make it better. I've got a lot of hope in our people. But we need people who can tell them what to do. You asked a question. The new president should look at the people more than look about himself. Not to sit there and say I'm a president and therefore when I'm walking on stilts and I'm a different person. We are one, build the country, and let the people decide whether you are building it correctly.
Well, Captain Francis Babu, thank you very much for your time and your reflections on the 30-year journey of the Constitution. We do appreciate you for your insights and for your reflections on this very important milestone. My name is Judith Atim. Thank you very much for watching. Do leave us a comment in the comment section, and we'll be bringing you more of such reflections or interviews in our series on the 30-year anniversary of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Do stay tuned.